Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the International Seminar for Connectivity and Social Transformation. The objective of the event is to have debates with the contribution of connectivity that is universal and significant in Brazil, that goes beyond access and has a positive impact in people's lives. The seminar has the intention to proportionate the environment to exchange ideas and innovative propositions to transform inequalities to opportunities and guarantee that nobody is behind in the digital era. This event will be live in the TCU YouTube in three different idioms: Portuguese, English, and Spanish. We are in the auditorium of Zedelo Correia, a huge space with this grandiose experience is folk with light focus destacking whoever is there, and wood with a simple design. On the right, on we have this background and ramps of access and big corridors for the mobility of all. My name is Tabia Medeiros. I'm white. I'm with this black suit and black cravat. Behind the stage, we have this art of the event is in blue with vibrant colors, and we have the name of the event: International Seminar of Digital Inclusion, Connectivity, and Social Transformation. On the right bottom, the date, the time, and locality of the event. On the right top, we have two different siglas for the Federal Court of Accountants, which is TCU, and then people connecting themselves to internet. My name is Jair Menledis, and I'm in a blue suit and white shirt and a red tie. We invite the Minister of Federal Court of Accounts, Haroldo Sebras. The Secretariat of Telecommunications, Hermano Bastecius. And the General Secretariat of the Federal Court of Accounts. Tanya Pimenta. And for the overture of the seminar, we give the floor to the Minister Haroldo Sebras of the Federal Court of Accounts. Good morning, all. The honor with your presence in this event that we consider of big presence for their participation of our companions from Brazil and abroad, a lot of them here in person and virtually as well, where we have the significant participation of the ones who are subscribed to this event in YouTube. And I am sure that the brains that are here today are committed to this big development and international development, especially on the tools that can leverage the economical, technological, in relation to health, on all the areas of knowledge throughout what we, from the beginning, started talking about technology of information. I'd like to thank the presence of my companionship, my companions of table in this morning, and of the Secretariat of Technical Communications, Hermano Barros, Tessius, that comes from the beginning of the phase of technician that responsible for the important fields of the area of communication in the ministry, having this work with partnership with the Federal Court of Accounts and all the organs that are involved in the federal government in this task that is so hard, making Brazil 100% digital. And I'd like to salute our Secretary, Tânia Lopes Pimenta Schwarto, General Secretary of the External Control of Federal Court of Accounts, that represents very well all the technical areas of our house, involved with this task more than 10 years, and I am sure that she will know how to bring with her experience and with this joint work with all the technical areas of the court that we do in this perspective of trying to induce the country to come to this level that I am sure that we need to get away from all of the bad things that we see in the public policies and public administration, because this is the tool that can transform the lives of all the Brazilians. Ladies and gentlemen, here in the name of the President's Ministry, Vitargo Rego, that has given the support for the organization of this event since the beginning with his team of the Federal Court of Accounts, the support that we had and the approval of this proposal in a unanimous way, all the ministries in the House throughout the years, each one in their way has been contributing in a very special way for the encouraging of this task that is this transformation that we need so much. And I am sure that with all the administration body, with the management today, we can count that this event can now be transformed in another happening and exchange of information, above all learning for the Federal Court of Accounts that now I represent. And I like to salute my colleagues and thank your honorable presences and talk about my satisfaction of doing this opening, since we have a life that is dedicated to the technological area inside and out of the Federal Court of Accounts. And in this condition, on all the institutions in Brazil, with always with the cooperation and the participation of all the entities of the public administration of Brazil, with the three powers, uh, legislative, judiciary, everyone that is contributed for us to be doing this event in this morning. So the ones that have been following up the this court in relation to technology of information, they know how we've been dedicating ourselves, especially to this theme, with the result of the believing, and it's a belief that the digital transformation and innovation are the only paths to take the public administration to serve with better quality efficiency to the Brazilian citizen. And this is the reason that has taken us to create the initiative Brazil 100% Digital in 2015, with the support of the federal government, with the president at the time of the House of Representatives, the chief of the House, and everyone that is in the legislative has been, and at the time the president of the House of Representatives, and to walk in this path and with all the public entities of the federal sphere. In the same time, we've created here in this Institute Cidadão Correia our lab of innovation, the pioneer in this institution of control in the world. And then following up, we have founded the cooperation with the executive and judiciary, with the chain of innovation on the public sector, InnovaGov, and is with this huge responsibility and satisfaction that I'll register the success of those initiatives. The progress of the digital government in Brazil was noticeable, as I'm going to approach when I come back to talk to you inside of the program that has been established for this event. Nova Gov is still active today with millions of participants that will gather in this innovations week with ENAPI and with our support. Our lab still produces important amendments for the guidelines of public procurement. So this event that today we are doing will represent a new and important step in this path. And we have this, we need this 100% digital government, but we still need this population that is still excluded in this world with lack of access for those abilities. So the scenery that has been revealed on the audit of our Federal Court of Accounts that we had the honor to say, and I'd like to thank Dr. Rainedo, that has been collaborating this path and all this journey, and salute of the representatives of the Federal Court of Accounts that has been doing this work, and we know about this responsibility, and the goal of this seminar is above all to foment this debate and incentivize the construction of solutions that are collaborating with the reality of today of demand of this area that produce this relevant impact for the lives of Brazilians. For this, we have in this morning panels with representatives of the federal government and state government and the National Congress and all this organization of the third sector, beyond specialists of international and national institutions. I'd like to invite each one of you to participate actively of this dialogue and this exchange of ideas for the construction of proposals that can transform, above all, the big and sad inequalities in Brazil and new opportunities for all. So in behalf of Digital Rego, to give you welcome and of all the participants that are here today with us, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, and all the countries that have the participation in this event. And I'd like to say to all that we know that today this knowledge doesn't have a owner. We know that it can come up in any place, and we've been following up in these transformations, the significant examples that we have been receiving from our friends of all of CEF and Latin America. So I like to say hello to all of CEFs and all the participants from Latin America that are here with us today in this very important event, that so Brazil can in fact and in some moment to come to this condition to be 100% digital. Thank you all and welcome, and a big success to all the participations in this event. Thank you very much. To profess his words, we invite the Secretary of Telecommunications of the Ministry of Telecommunications, Armando Barros Testes. Good morning, everyone. It's a big satisfaction to be here today and talking in behalf of Ministry of Communication, our Minister Siqueira Filho. As I've talked, our Minister of Haroldo Cedrais that would like to be here today, but is traveling and he couldn't be here, so I'm here in his behalf. I'm representing him and the Ministry of Communication. So salute everyone, our Minister Haroldo Cedrais, that with this initiative of promoting seminars, international seminars, and all his acting in the promotion of the digital inclusion in our country, and also Secretary Stania Lopez. I'd like to say hello and salute you for your presence in this roundtable, and the authorities. And I'd like to say hello especially to ex-Minister Denatel, Juris Cadros, in which I talk about all the other authorities, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be a part of this session of opening in this international digital inclusion seminar. I'd like to talk about three topics. Can I stop the protocol? Augusto Manes, he is part of our. He invited us to be a part of this opening table. He's the minister that has been collaborating in this path, and he's acting as welcome. So thank you. Well, as it's an honor to be part of this opening session of the international seminar, I'd like to talk about specific topics, but firstly, to start saying and remembering that we've testimonied in the last years a transformation, a profound transformation in the way that we interact the market between the market and public services and opportunities of work, access of education, culture, health, and this political participation are increasingly digital. So in this context, to be connected is not only a convenience, is a essential condition for this for our citizenship. So the digital inclusion historically, our efforts they've been concentrating in the universality of the telecommunications, especially in the last decades. We need to remember that and to make it universal, to take the service of telecommunications and connect it with all the Brazilians, regardless where they live. And I should like to recognize the effectiveness of Brazil in getting to this, in reaching this objective, to having this infrastructure universality we have in Brazil through the public policies that have been affected throughout the years, but also the regulamentations and strategies, especially to be here, the asymmetries in regulamentations that have been defined for the services of fixed broadband, to make Brazil that have today more than 1,000 providers of internet, that have the most quantity of providers of internet broadband in Brazil is Brazil. So it's intense competition that have been done by those regulatory merits and these asymmetries, especially that those small companies have been received. So a lot of competition. Brazil has lived in the last years this expansion, very big expansion of the infrastructure of the broadband. So we have more 77.5% just that is available for the broadband, less than 2.2% showing this big evolution that we've had. So it's a very significant number if we compare to the other countries in the world, especially BRICS that we had the honor to have here in Brazil this year, specifically the working group of technology of BRICS. One of the products of the BRICS was this evaluation of connectivity in the country. So we saw that Brazil is above average in this infrastructure and disponibility of telecommunications. So if we consider, we know that we still have some challenges in this area, but the mobile broadband on the mobile phones is more than 70% of the Brazilians. So we have this challenge. We need to take the infrastructure for the regions where the people don't live, but they commute. So the uh, roadways and political institutions in Brazil is still a challenge, but we need to recognize the big evolution of our country in this area of taking the infrastructure, especially considering the characteristics of our country, this huge territory of our country, and the challenges for
low income per capita income, it's a bit difficult to close the accounts and take this infrastructure there. So this focus on infrastructure, the historical focus, has allowed us to advance, but we also know that it's not enough. It's not only about being connected, but because true digital inclusion must be safe, stable, frequent, financially accessible, and adequate to each one's necessities. This is the concept of universal and significant connectivity consolidated in the International Union of Telecommunications, adopted by Brazil as in its strategy of public policies. This concept of significant policies is recent and it's being formalized only in 2022, a little while ago. In 2022, OMC has already uh, implied it, and it has improved in our connectivity work. We came to six axes instead of only the infrastructure. Now we need to take infrastructure, quality, safety, adequate devices. We need adequate quality, and we also need, as a last point that I do not remember now, but I will remember in a few minutes, there are six connectivity significant axes that we have expanded a lot our need of work in this area. Uh, and this made challenges even bigger. As I cited here, as I said before, if only 2.5% of all households in Brazil do not have available internet to hire, we have bigger ones. 2.8% of our population, of our households, cannot afford for connectivity services. So we have 2.5 who cannot do not have it available, and 2.8 who cannot afford for it, no matter if it's available or not. Another challenge is safety. 6.5 Brazilians say they do not use the internet because they do not feel safe. They fear suffering some kind of fraud or scam through the internet. And 11.3% of Brazilians also affirm they do not use internet because they do not know how to use it. So the infrastructure challenge out of the four I talked about here is the least one, but there are bigger ones. Considering this number of Brazilian people who do not use the internet, if we evaluate underuse without exploring all potentialities, its number will become greater, around 20% concerning services accessibility. Around 30% of Brazilians access the internet, but they have a mobile plan that doesn't last the whole month. We got also Brazilians who do not adapt, up to 70% of who do not have uh, digital access and literacy to use the internet. So this charge is made even bigger. This is a challenge we need to face, and this challenge brings with it other actions that we need to take. To mention some examples, I'm gonna mention first of all, the initiative, the quite important initiative that is the elaboration of a national plan of digital inclusion. When we talk about these six axes, there are some policies going on related to other axes, but we also notice it that this big amount of subjects has made it even more necessary the elaboration of a joint plan at the same time concerning integrating all kinds of policies. So this is the national plan of digital inclusion, uh, stated by a presidential decree for a while, and we formally have started this interministerial work with the civil secretariat and the Ministry of Communications. On September 1st, we have started this work formally, and at Continuum on the 15th, we installed the thematic chambers, one for a demand, another for offering, with the participation of 40 different institutions. Uh, beyond including not only the National Telecommunications Agency, we have 16 other ministries, for other federal ministries participated, and 24 other private institutions, academies, and others from the productive sectors, institutions that associations, labor associations. So we got around 40 entities participating, taking part of the elaboration of this national plan of digital inclusion. And we got the great challenge of the decree says that it must be made in only 90 days, so and we can postpone for only 90 more days, so we need a previous work, and before the installation of this group we need to make a previous diagnosis of the gaps of digital inclusion here in Brazil, including these percentages of people who underuse or do not use the internet. We made a previous work. We also took info about what kinds of connectivity initiatives have been done in all ministries. We also hired consultancy to check what has been done by NGOs, by the private sector, and several entities that have made this connectivity work in a very significant way in our country. We need to recognize these projects, not only thinking about new ones, but also the solution sometimes is in potentializing existing ones. So this work from the National Digital Inclusion Plan, I'd like to bring it here and tell you that beyond these members, we can also count with the extraordinary participation with other interested entities in this short uh, term, but we need to use make this social inclusion in our country. Considering this issue, I would like also to acknowledge the contributions of the Federal Court of Accounts in this topic. And beyond the promotion of this seminar, that I'm sure this seminar will bring insight, info that will be quite important to prepare this national plan, Minister Haroldo. But more than that, I would like to considering all the acting of this federal court in different fronts, I would like to mention the assessment of this federal inclusion in our when we were talking a few minutes ago, the recommendations and the determinations of this federal court have been and they will be quite important for getting solutions. For example, the evolution of adjustments in the presidential decree providing public policies of telecommunications. We have talking that in order to include public auctions of radio frequency, not only infrastructure but also the access must be considered in a broader way. We from the Ministry of Telecommunications make the policies, but we need an adjustments in laws and decrees in order to get into public politics in a broader way, all these access and make it uh, fundamenting the votes of our ministers. And we would, in order to get these advances in our politics and laws, we would like to uh, take these auctions more often. So, considering the acknowledging the contributions of this Federal Court of Accounts and asking to count with this support in other challenges to come. Another challenge I need to mention is the one of getting resources to make real all the projects in feasible time. So social inclusion will bring this diagnosis, this more precise diagnosis, this number of projects and public policies, how much resources are necessary. But thinking quickly, we need to find which resources we need. For example, uh, considering rural connectivity and their needs in Brazil, we have a great index considering the population, but considering some remote geographic areas, such as the rural areas where family agriculture is happens, where on federal highways in touristic areas. So we noticed we got a challenge of around 40 billion reais in order to get infrastructure to these areas. And I'm not only mentioning infrastructure, this is the smallest challenge. If when we mention digital literacy, we see that our challenge is over 50, 60 billion reais to promote digital inclusion. While we got a fund here of universalization of telecommunication that gets 1 billion a year, and most of it is historically put under contingency. We spend a lot of time without using this fund first, and we have used it for the first time last year. Now we have been using more fully, but it's kind of some funds that we get 1 billion and more, no more than 50% of it can be used for non-refundable resources, such as that do not can do not need to be loans. You know, it cannot be the maximum; it must be the minimum apported. And in our Congress, there are two projects to avoid the contingency of these kind of funds. Futel gets half of it, and it's urgent that we approve these projects in order to at least count on the resources of these funds, FUSH and Funtel. It's not enough considering the challenge we got, but it's the first step counting more effectively on these resources. Uh, Besides, we know that we will need more resources. That is the radio frequency auction resources and other sources that conversion of fires, for etc. But even though, Mr. Haroldo, what I strongly believe that we will do is that the face these challenges in a reasonable period of 5 to 10 years, and we will need other resources because when connectivity is significant, it doesn't take only telecommunication industries but also other sixes, considering the services from other actors of the digital system. Just to give you an example, a concrete example, when we talk about digital literacy of our population. As I told you, 10% of the Brazilian population says they do not use the internet because they don't know how to use it. This 10%, if they get digital literacy, they can become future customers of the telecommunication industries. And we also have other 60% that today are already users of the telecommunication services, but they do not have basic digital abilities. For example, getting an email with an attachment or sending a message on WhatsApp or an attachment. 60% of our population does not have this kind of ability. As I told you, 10% do not use the internet. Other 60 do it, but do it in a precary way without all the potentiality. If we invest in literacy, in digital literacy, in the abilities, this 60% of the population will use services much more significantly and from other platforms, especially big techs. So those who will win uh, more than these industries are big techs and other platforms. This is the reason why we defend that they also need to contribute to digital inclusion in our country. We've been talking with these platforms. They have already understood this need. They also require that some resources should not be used for infrastructure in telecommunication. It can be used for literacy, for many other axes. There are other 5 other axes aside from infrastructure, but we need the support of this court, the support of our federal Congress to implement this contribution by big techs, and this way we will be able to actually um, combat effectively digital exclusion in our country. And I imagine today we got fire under a very fail rain, and considering initiatives, creative initiatives that we have been trying to do along the years, especially you, but we also need to put these initiatives together with other sources and for getting resources. This is what I wanted to bring as info today in our opening session, emphasizing again that connectivity universal and significant is a structured right in the 21st century, reducing inequalities and making a society fair and more innovative and inclusive. There will be no sustainable development, there will be no full citizenship, there will be no social justice without digital inclusion. Thank you very much. Now we are going to hear the ministry from the Federal Court of Accounts, Minister Augusto Naves. I'll be quite fast. I'm only here to greet everybody, to wish you all a good event, and talk about digital inclusion. Is extremely important for our nation. We are far behind compared to other developed nations. I had the opportunity to live for a moment in Japan, and they had all already in, make with robotization, and are are already using smart houses and all those things we got there in Japan. So this debate promoted here by President Vital and by Minister Cedras dedicated to to this issue is really important for our court to keep counseling and orienting. We are far beyond the rest of Brazil. I compare Japan. Japan's far beyond us, and we are far beyond Brazil. I'm gonna mention some names. Alice, who is in charge of auctions, of monitoring, with Monica, and we got other names aside from these ones that to work in a as fast as possible process that would take 4, 5, 6 years. We resolve everything in 4, 5, 6 years. So we are far beyond. Today we are auditing United Nations, and it's been a work that we started when I was put in charge of the federal code. Together with Haroldo Cedras, we transformed the Federal Court of Accounts, creating specialized secretariats and advancing very much on the question of digital governance. So the Federal Court of Accounts today is leading worldwide an audit of the climate, climate scanner in the Amazon, in 9 states of the Amazon in 2013, 2014, when I was in charge of it together with Minister Haroldo Cedras. We created coordinated auditions in order to uh, get together these audits, in order to get together with states of Amazon, in order to make smart development, economical development in the Amazon, expanding this to all Latin America. Later on, we made other coordinated audits coordinating the Latin American continent, and we articulated together with President Cedras that succeeded me in order to lead the world control system. We are in charge of 193 countries. We give orientation and we state the norms of audits in worldwide level. It is relevant to know the accomplishments that we have made. Together with Minister Cedras, we led this movement throughout the world, and today we are on the top of planet control. This is the reason why recently I've been to Japan in a universal conference in the universal exhibition proposing this world climate audit. We are going to present a copy of it right now of sustainable development.
And I think the biggest problem that the planet has, and the issue of digital inclusion gives us the possibility to have these policies, preventions. This is why the Federal Court of Accounts started to work with this seminary of the digital inclusion and this debate and this transformation that Brazil needs to have. We are very advanced. The Federal Court of Accounts is a way for us to monitor and evaluate uh, the growth of our country. This is why we have the evaluations of governance. I don't know if you know, we have 387 institutions, governmental institutions. We evaluate how the government, digital governance is. So the journey that has been announced is that a week before the last, we had this situation, and we came to the conclusion that the government is not structured enough. I do the provocation, hermano. You are a person who's represented the government. We consider that the 88% of the government doesn't have digitalization. This is the way to do this prevention. 88% was been related last week. It wasn't me. I think it was Minister Jorge. Please help me. I think he told me, and I did the comment. 88% of the House of Representatives doesn't have digital governance, and if it doesn't have digital governance, it doesn't have metrics, and it doesn't have the capability to governance. If the country doesn't do this digital inclusion that we're proposing today, the country is late in the competitiveness around the world. We need to make an accordance the structure of the state of Brazilian state so we can advance as fast as possible. We need this federal government in the joint state of Brazil, and we're very late with the audits. It wasn't me, it was the audit from the TCU. I already knew this because I did the investigators of governments of all the nation. We know what is there. The minister are going to come and visit me in the House of Representatives in Brazil. They need to improve the governance of people. The governance of people is very important. Training to have connectivity, digital inclusion. So if we don't do a good evaluation, Tanya, if we don't have a good evaluation, our technical area is very competent and is represented by Tanya. If we don't do so, the government can show their capabilities of monitoring. There's corruption. Is what happened. ENSS is the lack of governance. They didn't detect that they were taking money out of 7 billion people, and so there was lack of control, and it needs to be in the center of the government. We try to advance a little bit, and then Michel Temer, a little bit in Bolsonaro, and trying to convince the government today. If without good sense of government, we don't have advancement on digital governments. We need a core of government that can say, we can make this decision on national level, but we need the capabilities of evaluation and monitoring so we don't have any problems as we're having with Tarifa. So we need the governments to talk with the most important leadership so we can make this decision. So regardless of government ABC, it needs to show paths And this is to show paths and show where the mistakes are. And the government cannot be upset because TCU is criticizing. We are in front of it. We are the most advanced court of Latin America. So please, hermano, count on us. And we've convinced Juan Fidel to implant this governance. IFD is the president there is very competent. So we need to recognize when we have someone competent. She has seeked us, and we directed her to show where the gaps were and the mistakes were, and we audit you all the time. The minister Cedrais, me, Tanya, all of the audits, we are trying to guide the government. We don't want to punish, we want to prevent. If we're punishing, we've already lost or already had fraud. We already had deviation, and this society loses trust on us in relation to retirement. And I'm not talking about this government, I'm talking about a lot of other governments. And we're here today to try and help the governance. We are giving alert to the governments in the seminar that has been uh, achieved by Vitali and all the houses to alert that we need to move forward. Because when I lived in Japan and I saw all of this robotization and they came out of Caesar, they've gone beyond the Americans, especially on automobiles, that China is coming in as well in this um, huge way, and we don't have the viability of producing in the same conditions, and we don't have computers in the same conditions that the Chinese already have, and we don't have structure to try and improve our competitiveness in the railway and all of the other areas. We're going to be left behind, and Brazil is not a country that was born to be left behind. We have agronomy, which is representing the country because the agronomy has been modernized, and we are potency, especially in the production of um, food, and we need to transform that in industry to viabilize the nation. I'm not going to be too much longer. I just came to say my piece, and the government, we want to help because we are a little bit more advanced. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the worldwide presidents of governance as the Minister of Cities. When we had this organization of Latin American, we saw that there was a window for us to have this worldwide control and to actually preside on that. And today we do, and I'd like to salute Cedrais on this innovation issue. This is a ministry that takes care of this theme, and I came to bring my salute and greetings and ask for permission because after the second chamber and a few minutes we'll start the session, and I have this responsibility, but I didn't want to leave this homage without saying something, and especially Cedrais that gave us this contribution for this Federal Court of Accounts of Brazil, as said as big captain in this process of digital inclusion and governance, digital governance, as for us to enhance our competitiveness and around the world. Congratulations for the work that we do. Emmanuel, you can count on us regardless of ideologies, politics, and the center of right and left. It needs this most interest of the Brazilian coordination. Thank you. We thank Augusto Nardos for his words. We are now going to hear the General Secretary of the External Federal Court of Accounts. Tânia Lopes Pimenta. Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to salute you, thank the president for the ones who are online, for the one who is here today, and register my honor to be part of this opening session with Minister Haroldo Cedrasky that more than 10 years has been idealizing the acting of TCU in this agenda of digital inclusion. And I remember the referential of politics of digital politics in 2017, and has a phrase that I really like. TCU cannot be an obstacle. It needs to be an inductor of the digital development of our nation. And it has been said, these are the words of Haroldo Cedrais. I'd like to say that every time that we talk about innovation, digital inclusion, because it's important to us to realize that the Federal Court of Accounts has been working on this agenda that recently has culminated in a uh, agreement with Cedras and viabilized this event that we are all in. It's an event that shows the importance of the subject. It cannot be only in the audit. It needs to be in this house. It needs to gain the Brazil and the world. Is this event that reaches internationally? We have a lot of partners of the Latin America and international partners that take help us to take this necessity to look at this problem from a more advanced level. And I like to salute the presence of Dr. Hermano, and I think it's very symbolic, his presence of the Secretary of Telecommunications. It shows that government is worried about the subject of this agenda, is in the core of the decisions of the government, and the Federal Court of Accounts is a partner, and take the recommendations and the determinations of the court for the Ministry of Communications. And this is why we're all looking for paths and to reduce this exclusion, digital exclusion. And I need to thank the technical team for the work of excellent work that they've been doing this subject, especially in the last work that I'm with the executive. And I see that a lot of you, Guilherme, Alexandre, Deborah, Manuela, Ana Paula, Paulo, Luis, Aline, we have all of them here. The theme it's very excellent work and it needs our recognition. In the beginning of this year, 2025, we have received from the Vital Rego president a task transform the Federal Court of Accounts of the Court of the Citizens, to look in each of our works and everything that we do here in the Federal Court of Accounts with the point of view of the citizen, looking of what we do and how this impacts directly the lives of our citizens. Historically, TCUs, which is the Federal Court of Accounts, has this and public entities, but this is a means of reaching an effective transformation of lives on the citizens' lives. So this is the flag of our management today, and this is how we've been working since the beginning of these years. And then we have this work of the digital inclusion that shows how, in fact, this is a relevant issue for our country, and in fact impacts the lives of people, and how we need to worry about that. These are the data of the executive summary of the work that shows that 15 million homes don't have access to internet in Brazil. And we're talking about the significative connectivity. We don't have infrastructure that is available, but in fact, having available structure being the connective that's multifaceted, it doesn't mean that those people are included digitally. So we have this 15 million homes without access of internet, and probably the it brings a little bit of data when it comes to economy and financial data for the people to be able to pay for that connection for their internet in their homes. 20 million people, approximately 10% of the population, Brazilian population, uh, uh, more than 10 years old, has never navigated on the internet. But if we look at the size of our country, we can say that it's not such a big number, but it's still 20 million people. And we, as the Federal Court of Account, we want to look at each one of these people and take citizenship, take accessibility and conditions for them to have this power to transform their own lives. And in a government that is even more digital, that this data really worries us because this is exactly it. How these people are going to access those public services? How are they going to be um, taken into account if they're not going to be included digitally? They are invisible inside of our society even more. This tendency is to happen even more unless they are looked at and this accessibility is taken to them. Who are these people? We questioned ourselves because we're here. We know that everyone here has this connectivity. We don't know about these people. We don't know them because these people are the same ones that already suffer with the inequalities in our country. We're talking about rural populations. Um, we're talking about black people, people from northeast of our country, with economical class D and E, which are the most prejudiced when it comes economically in a country. We're talking about people that already are vulnerable. They're already in some way on the border of the public policies and opportunities, and this is only aggravating. And we have this huge gap with the digital exclusion, which shows the necessity of acting urgently in this area. This will amplify this lack, this digital exclusion. But when we are included digitally, the citizen has the opportunity to uh, get through this barrier. And one of the only doors, probably, for that person to get out of this vulnerable situation. We have some examples, some recent data related to Northeast. They have poles and technological parts of Pernambuco that there was a growth then 3,000% in that region, and that has a socio-economical effect that is very important, especially in a region that we're talking about, Northeast specifically, a region that historically has more digital exclusion. If we look to South and Southeast, we see that the innovation, technology, the digital inclusion brings opportunities. It has revenue and changing of the lives of these people. We have a case that I really like because the Rio de Janeiro has launched in 3 of September the Sandbox here, which is the program from the municipality to accelerate the startups and have this government support for the startups and stimulate the entrepreneurship in that region. And there is a startup that I always like to mention because it's a very nice initiative with this delivery in the slums. We never stop to think that the people that live in those communities, especially in the Rio de Janeiro slums where they're working today, they don't have they don't take the merchandise inside of those communities, uh, sometimes because they don't have zip code security. These people, especially the entrepreneurs of those communities, they are isolated somehow. And this program of delivery in the slums does this. They utilize the uh, knowledge of localities that are that give from the government. So where we have uh, digital literacy, they will install in these localities and have the connection of the people who live in the community with the world outside. So we see how the connectivity can take citizenship and opportunities for the people with those examples that I brought today. Talking about connectivity that is significant, I think this is the biggest differential of this work that has brought this concept, and it's relatively well established since 2021, more or less. But that has, Dr. Hermano has said, is an issue, and it talks about a multifaceted problem. Not only the connection that is available, it's not enough, or quality connection. We need that and um, digital skills that AI has been aggravating. If we don't consider that these people are concluded, they're going to be even more isolated from the rest of society. The infrastructure, talking about infrastructure that is individualized, devices, and that will and tools that will allow this access of this financial access, security, and protection of the broadband. And just as we have this digital responsibility that is very strong, that we have other initiatives and works that will connect with the ones that we're presenting today is the digital accessibility of public services and coops but, with the elderly, and are some actions that we have in this operational plans of GSEX related to this topic. And talking in this multifaceted of this, the federal court account has related that 84% of
all investment has been focused on quality and offer of connection. We still do not have full coverage of all significant connection. And this is one of our issues, one of our challenges that we need to analyze. And our challenge here is a coordinated effort in order to fight this digital exclusion, to mean reduce this exclusion with bigger coverage of all these dimensions of significant connectivity, with bigger social participation from the society. This is another question considering the citizen court, and focusing the most vulnerable groups which are more hit by this problem. I thank a lot the opportunity given here. I'm certain that today, listening to our experts, as Minister Nardo said, we will find possible ways, and from here, I hope we will get out with some solutions, and especially aware that we need urgently to fight this problem. Thank you very much. Hope you all have a nice event today. Uh, so our opening is already finished. We ask authorities to go to the first row in the auditorium, and we require Minister Cedrais to keep on stage with us, please, while other authorities go to sit on the first row of our auditorium. Thank you. In order to start the Magnum lecture talking about the, we have the Minister of Federal Court of Accounts, Minister Cedras. Once again, good morning for all of you, especially the ones who haven't seen our opening words for this event that I consider quite significant, taking into consideration its topic and the honored princesses that are here in this opening section. Uh, nos, our institute, Certelo Correiro, one of the few institutions which has its own university. Uh, it's not here in the behalf of federal court, but also in behalf of this plenary federal court of accounts. But I would like to thank everybody who's participating here virtually on YouTube. I guess that is a special meaning considering the number of virtual inscriptions and the international presences as lecturers, and also the ones from several OLACEF countries here. I know during this time you will have to save a little time to allow that a broader discussion takes place of the topics discussed here. And I would like to register and acknowledge and thanks in behalf of all the organization, Minister Vital do Rego, and our ministers, the honored presidents of Minister Augusto Nardes, who was president of our court and gave significant steps to start this journey. And we would like to thank His General's Word for his work, and all the guys from the all of you from the technical fields and our collegiate have, in order to make Brazil uh, get closer, get actually closer. We hope so, just like Uruguay, in a group of countries that belong to the group that used to be D5, now D7, totally digital places. And it's a great contribution that court with our power constituted from the executive, Dr. Emmanuel, and all the contributions that we have had here on this opening session. They make this event bigger, but much more important, but than listening to me again, I guess it is important to join us for a long time with the presence of lecturers from several places in the world, and they will bring their contributions in order to broaden these discussions each day and take part of the infrastructure of Brazil and give it a condition to make our country find ways to foster innovations through connectivity, through information technology. And I'm sure that maybe for this event, the biggest challenge, maybe we may find a new expression that can link the efforts that have been done throughout the world with the coordination of a company that we all know, Dr. Lucas will be represented. Just SMA, that is the possibility of broadening the connectivity bases throughout the world, not only in developed country but also in underdeveloped country, in order to contribute with tools and cooperation and exchange of knowledge, so in a way people can be more connected in this world, in this world that grows in every second, and the speed becomes the most important world in this panorama. So we are in a moment to take CG broadband, and we need everybody here in discussions and reflections in order to get this responsibility in Brazil to stimulate connectivity, especially in more remote regions in a continental country where people who has less resources in our economic system can get in. We'd like to thank the presences in the auditorium, the hundreds of people participating on this event through YouTube, and I would like to give a special greets to all the representatives of the audit institutions in Ecuador, Argentina, Paraguay, and many other countries that belong to OLASAF, and also join the seminar in a virtual way. Then I would like to say that it's our mission in the case of Federal Court of Account to aprimorate and to make it better and to contribute above all in benefit of our society, as well as we said here, and reinforcing the aspect for reinforced by all the guys who followed us, including Minister Nardis. So I guess the only way to make citizens become served to the for by the state instead of serving it is fighting to make Brazil become an 100 digitalized country. This implies not only transforming services in public policies as we know, but also providing digital inclusion and significant inclusion to all Brazilian citizens, independent of gender, ethnicity, social class, and residence. I consider them, and I will be quite brief in order to make a better occupation for those who will succeed to occupy this tribune. I consider this event we are carrying out today here in Severo de la Correia Institute represents part of this renovation with broader horizons and the movement that we have started 10 years ago in order to imp- to foster digital transformation in Brazil. We used to suffer with bureaucratic services. You can see on this slide the importance of that seminar when we had with us to start this journey representatives of 39 countries. So it was a quite significant event. And I know by that moment we could hear approaches from different electronic governments that got citizens trapped in forms that grew our bureaucracy and could not solve the international problem with a mentality that was quite analogic by the time. So somehow we use that expression, that quite known expression known from my state, where we say that our intention was trying to reduce, uh, dumbness, dumbness, and our considering our governors and public servers engaged in this work, enrolled in this work, the offer of digital services has grown quite well in a way that Brazil has been recognized by ONU and the World Bank as the one of the leaders in this area. On the other hand, unfortunately, uh, we couldn't hear these results in the structure of telecommunications. We made lots of visitations through academic places throughout the world, through colleges, and in order to try to make our management here at the University of Columbia, we got together with Professor Alexander Shakeman, he's a Brazilian who acts in this area in the United States, and he has a group that was concentrating on Brazilian economy permanently. And he told us something that was quite unforgettable for us. There is not a single chance that a country will get a bigger productivity and incorporation of innovation in economy and in production without solving its infrastructure issues. So he said there is not a chance that a country will get this level of productive economy without solving that problem. After so many years, today I'm really strongly sure of it. And this moment we are discussing significantly our infrastructure concerning connectivity in order to with a strong infrastructure, we will overcome lots of deficiencies that we got in other areas considering infrastructure. On the other hand, unfortunately, we haven't seen the same results in this dimension. And here, the dimensions that we got to discuss this topic here in Brazil, a gigantic country, in order to make someone bring this world to the new world of innovations, this moment the needs to improve telecommunication infrastructures around the world, as we have been joining for many years in encounters of that congress, big congress in Barcelona and recently in China, is that maybe we must find ways to strengthen connectivity and take the most advanced of communication area and its technology in order to use artificial intelligence, looking for a way to suggest and to bring new ideas in order to bring this new world and follow inside a platform that would help us spreading this knowledge and making greater relations with technology, telecommunications, international technology, and artificial intelligence. As we had forecast in our alerts when we made the auction of 5G by the Federal Court of Account, that moment in 2021, more than 4 years ago, United Nations ranking showed we were advanced quite slowly. So we were overpassed by many other countries that amplified their coverage and their networks significantly. When we participated in Montevideo many years ago in an event promoted by the World Bank, an event named Open Accounts, Cuentas Abertas, we noticed that we were in front of them, and the country was still starting to understand how this new world of telecommunication would be like, the new world of IT. And today I sat here, I guess in the beginning of this speech, or maybe in the opening speech, that Uruguay has been was inserted on that group named as D5, and now it's named D7, and it advanced quite quickly, faster than us. But we know Uruguay is a smaller country. It has a solid educational basis since the post-World War, and it is an homogeneous country with a smaller and homogeneous population. So these decisions uh, must be much easier than what we got here in Brazil. Still talking about digital services, when we look at the states and Brazilian municipalities, we see the levels uh, great or very good have been reached, and more than a half of our territory. That means that federal and municipal and statewide administration have been even become more and more present in this virtual environment in order to make a special effort to serve the citizen. So there are many public services that have been elaborated recently, and it makes us feel better. The images we are showing on the slides, the presence of digital inclusion with a dimension of analysis and index we've done, actually allowing us to use the simple language in the interaction with the citizen. We can say that accessibility in content in general terms has been reasonably satisfactory. So I'm sure that we have been advanced a little bit in this area, and it's a new way that we need to believe that someday, one day, we will get in a more advanced panorama. So, considering a big offer of digital services presented uh, in an intelligible way for many citizens, it does not mean uh, they are actually able to access the citizens. So we need to broaden the spaces quite quickly. In a plan that attends only part of the population is not enough. We need the universalization of these services. So in order to make it, we need an approach, universal, multidisciplinary, and we need it's not a problem to be solved by a single institution. Considering telecommunication, as United Nations shows us, based on indicators from international trade organization, uh, we have a quality, but it's not only connected, but it's not only about this. It's not enough to have network coverage if the citizen cannot afford to buy a device or uh, uh, sign a date, sign the internet. So it's not very a data plan. It's not very useful if you cannot navigate safely and if you cannot enjoy the available services, or if you don't trust the digital environment to make your transactions. So these numbers are worrying. 20 million of Brazilians do not access the internet, while other 50 million still do it in a limited way, especially considering the elevated cost or the low quality of connection, as we can see here. A lot of these excluded people are generally people with low income, the elderly, and other vulnerable groups, especially those ones presenting the biggest deficiencies in digital skills, such as the use of apps and the adoption of privacy and safety care, and above all, uh, the feasibility that we need to have about info. So uh, this in Brazil, I would say it's even perverse because while this group has a lot of difficulty, they are even more vulnerable to scams and frauds that are seen daily. And who has never seen this through its mobile device, through their mobile devices? So situation gets even worse when we see that services and public services migrate crescently are growing, migrating to digital forms, digital ways, getting away from these million of Brazilian citizens and taking these people so away from their full service. Yeah. So, repeating the word of these slides, I'd like to say that digital inclusion is a matter of citizenship and not only a matter of technological discussion on access to internet.
I'd say that as water is indispensable for life, democracy for me as a Brazilian has experiences throughout my life to see well and where I need a democratic country, not democratic country. It was already important for me to see the ways of democracy throughout the world, and today I'm secure that I couldn't live without democracy as I couldn't live without water. So I think those two goods are very important. And I'd like to tell you that I believe in this moment the technology of information has gone through being very important. Without it, we didn't have intelligent life in the country. And this challenge that were already so big has gained a new leverage with the ascension of AI, each day more present on public services and platforms of content and all the fields of the commercial activity. To initialize this reflection about the relations of AI and digital inclusion, I'd like to come and borrow the words of Professor Lawrence Lessing of Harvard Law School. He said that without try and guess what we would have, what people already calling super AI, capable of substituting the human intelligence with the social networks and applications that already show themselves capable to identify, explore, and amplify our vulnerabilities. For sure, what would say it's a catch 22 coming through this new level of threat. 50 million Brazilians do not possess the basic skills to navigate securely through the digital means. So beyond the citizen without condition of access or connectivity, we now have a new category of digital exclusion, which are the individuals that, even though are connected, can be manipulated or have damage with those systems that they cannot comprehend. So in this vote of 2021, we consider those aspects and those risks, as has been alerted by Yuval Harari, his last book, this new book. The AI has the potential to construct what he calls a new network of illusions capable of stopping the new generations of trying to expose those measures or amplify throughout the artificial intelligence. At the same time, Harari defends that we could close those gaps doing making conscious choices with the usage of technology that would include a regulation, proper regulation to mitigate the risks in our area of work, and very close to the judicial powers, the event that we've worked to the international event of Argentina. Our court has left their message that is more important to become all those voices, one voice on this attempt to minimize those risks. And Brazil still is a target country with this exponential figure of attacks every day. So it's time to have inside of this national international control system and this judiciary system, at least in Latin America, that could allow that there is this multidisciplinary effort, international effort, so we can build one platform, because this was this big issue that we had in San Francisco, in the name of our court, with this cybernetic intelligence. So there is this theme for new discussions on the near future. So the challenge, I would say, is to develop norms that could protect the fundamental rights of the citizens. And the National Congress has this huge effort on regulation with the participation of public initiatives and private initiatives. At the same time, stimulate the development of adopting the new technologies with all those benefits. So the regulation, on our point of view, shouldn't in any aspect stop any type of innovation. So this is very important because of the speediness of advancement that we've had, and to try and direct it to the well-being of all, and the algorithms to help society and not the way other way around. So this is a very complex debate that needs a vision to try and see the speediness of and evolutions of the models of artificial intelligence in parallel of the regulations. I'd say it's very urgent to invest in the literacy of the population when it comes to AI, something that has already began to happen globally in all the places that we go. This theme is very important. We saw initiatives littered by multilateral as UN and nations as Spain that we saw recently more than once. The comments, they started to incorporate those decision and public policies, and trying to find international inspiration when it comes to digital world. I'd say that we cannot stop looking a stone, which is we've been in an international event when in this permanent reference that we start the Brazil 100% digital. We're connected to this concern of the digital Hegel, which is special attention to the citizens. So the factors of success of the digital transformation of Stone is this initiative of the president of the country in relation to the platform of Target that has incorporated the digital literacy as a essential pillar of children and teenagers, uh, starting from the 2000s. With this experience, the privilege of this meeting with other representatives on the countries of the world that were picked by those but to that event and launching this program, they had in mind to amplify also in Stone, the country that has been part of this group since the beginning of D5, about artificial intelligence in schools and all the school curriculums of all levels, and trying to readiness this new generation for this reality. To illustrate the importance of the initiatives of this kind, I would like to also talk about the big genius of technology in our generation. The end of 80s, Steve Jobs had the responsibility to disseminate the importance of digital literacy that has this movement of defense of the school systems for children and teenagers has been done in Stone. So with more results, the country that has taken the subject very, they've come to have more workers that are prepared for this generation. We're talking about 30 years previous. Until this day, Brazil has not reached it, and the advancement of the generative digital influence, and we've talked about other companies of all the fields that are having the software developers in the digital intelligence and making it feasible, and hours of work that those programs that are recently graduated that would take weeks for them to do. And the big differential for those professionals of today and the future is to know how to manage those resources from AI to define plans, execute tasks, and validate results. It is something that would not be restricted to software engineering. So, a model constructed by the um, European Union, we're talking about a gathering of knowledges and essential attitudes for the personal and professional success with this reality. Ladies and gentlemen that are here participating on this discussion with us, this is a learning curve for us from TCU and the ones that are virtually and in person. As I said before, Brazil has lost the opportunity to take seriously the necessity to promote the digital literacy of our students. So it's up to each of us to work so this same mistake is not made when it comes to artificial intelligence. I like to say that the Federal Court of Accounts, TCU, to give this example for their partners, for their friends, and their internal public, the target public, for all the Brazilians and Brazilian citizens, we are seeking now with the support of resources that are being directed on the budgeting of the federal court and the last year in leaving this initiative so we can each year with this execution of the digital literacy, the reaching all those Brazilian institutes and all the citizens of this area. And maybe after this long journey, we have this legacy that is going to stay for us to amplify and also count on the contributions of everyone who's participating in this event. And in a lot of moments, this project is already beginning of the University of Piauí. And so the keywords, I'd say that everything that we know will give place for the speediness. Speediness is the key word. So in the curriculum of basic education and also superior education, or in the management of services of public policies, and the artificial intelligence is not the optional item anymore, is a duty of all. The same way that the public administration has the duty to use it to have agility and quality on the expectations of citizenry, and state needs to promote the digital literacy of the population so everybody is benefited by those technological advancement. As Marcel Nobre has said, is a asset of very relevant globally, and making it more evolved with this productiveness. We need to do more. As come to that, I'm already concluding. It's important to remember that the Brazilian plan of AI, which the proposal was done in July 2024 and had the final version published a year later, talks about one of the structural axes, the capability, our capacity building, and amplifying the artificial intelligence area with 1.2 billion reais. And the formalization of the plan, I think it's a special concern. 80%, 85% of the adult population only has basic knowledge of artificial intelligence, with the focus on the benefits and risks as we know it. On my point of view, is a proposal still small with the challenges that we have in front of us, and I'd say that we'd be very distant when it comes to the necessary investments on in the literacy of uh, AI. I don't have any doubts that the digital inclusion and the literacy in AI are challenges with a lot of complexity. Because of that, I do understand that it depends on the collaboration of different entities with the public sector, state sector, and universities, institutions of the third sector of the private initiative. And I understand that everyone brings a piece to solve this puzzle, and one of the biggest objectives of this seminar, promoted by the Federal Court of Accounts with the federal government and everybody who's participating with this initiative, is this objective to try and make it easier the meeting and cooperation of those actors in a more effective and speedy way. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the end, unfortunately, my time also as a minister of this house, that was a permanent school every day of my life, personal and public, will be finishing soon by the limit of age that is imposed by the federal constitution. But I would like to register my commitment of wherever I am, starting from 2026, trying to continue with you in this fight for development in a Brazil that is not only 100% digital, but also starting from now, being above all a country 100% intelligent. So, in this sense, I like to leave with you my message that is very simple, that we can together continue to work so every Brazilian citizen are included in this new world with the AI and that technology to be used even more in the benefit of our society. And that has always been an honor to be with you, learning here even more each day, because this is a task of brains of the ones that are here in this auditorium and the ones that are participating with us through the digital platforms that we have at the moment. So it was an honor to share with these reflections in this qualified world, and try to say that I am here also to, since this first moment, to try and applaud everyone who are participating in presence or virtually, and the ones that are going to come after me in this established schedule of this event established by TCU, Federal Court of Accounts, and the results that we're trying to seek for a country as Brazil. Thank you very much. Good morning, and a big success for this event. We thank Haroldo Sebres for his brilliant lecture. In this moment, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a 10-minute break, and we're going to resume soon with the theme of artificial intelligence and social inclusion. Thank you. See you soon.
Testing on English channel. Testing on English channel. Testing on English channel. Testing on.
Senhoras e senhores, solicitamos a todos, por gentileza,
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you please to go back to your seats and keep your smartphones in silent mode. Audio and video will start transmission again in 10 seconds.
Nossa, eu tô olhando no espelho, eu tô com o olho vermelho de sono. Esse café tá sendo muito necessário. Você tá reparando?
Não. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start the panel about artificial intelligence and digital inclusion in a few seconds. For those who are here in person, we are going to distribute forms for questions with the chat of the Federal Court of Accounts. At the end of each panel, questions will be directed to the moderator. Before we follow, we need to inform all participants here and on YouTube that throughout all the event, a QR code will be available for contributions and suggestions for the National Plan of Digital Inclusion elaborated by the Interministerial Group. In order to, when you point your cell phone to the QR code, you will be sent two simple questions to show your propose, your criticisms, and your suggestions. Um, all info will be sent to the labor group in order to help formulating the plan. In order to compose the first panel about artificial intelligence and digital inclusion, we invite the representative of the AI, Eric Hans, from the Federal Court of Accounts. We also invite the Vice President of the Special Commission of AI Commission of the House of Representatives in Brazil, Mr. Reginaldo Lopes. The coordinator of the Observatory of Digital Technologies at the Center of Management for and Strategic Studies, Mr. Caroline Pereira. The co-coordinator at Aquatune Lab and alternate member of the National Human Rights Council, Julia Santana Melo. The public sector manager at Google Cloud, Marilia Stern. We also acknowledge the presence of André Macedo Santana, Secretary of AI, Digital Economy, Science, Technology and Innovation from the government of the state of Piauí in Brazil. Now, I pass the floor to the moderator of the panel, Eric Hans, who conducts the debate from now on. Good morning for everybody, especially the ones who are here. I would like to thank our panelists who will enrich this debate here. They bring two topics that are quite important for us, that are artificial intelligence, AI, and as well as digital inclusion. So these are two topics. I guess it's interesting to talk about it today because my field, my original working field is IT. We used to need to explain how to use AI, and it was quite associated to IT. Now it's more accessible to all. at least in theory, and I would like to hear a lot about the from the experts about it, because AI at the same time it fosters what we can do. It is a two-way road. It can either foster our work, and it can also exclude depending on how we use it. So it's a tool, it's a way that we can use to make this work. There are many mentions here, and we have from our representative of the legislative, our representative to law applied to racial issues. We would need probably 15 minutes to talk about it. We also have somebody related to strategic studies, how we can envisage this kind of work, and also a representative from technology, my friend here, who can talk about technological obstacles. So we'll have several different visions, but complementary about this topic. So we can reach this debate in a much more interesting way. This panel will be so good and so interesting that I have already received questions before the panel has even started. This shows AI is quite fast. I would like to introduce all our panelists and then pass the floor to the presentations. Our first panelist is Representative Reginaldo Lopes, here by my side. He's federal representative for the state of Minas Gerais. He's an economist. He's committed with education, social justice, and he's also related the tributary reinforcement, the law of access to information, the Youth Institute, and also he's also vice president of the Special Commission of AI of the House of Representatives. So I ask you to applaud my friend here. Our second panelist, Caroline Nascimento Pereira, here by my side. She is economist, graduated by Unicamp with doctorate and PhD in economic management. She works at the Center of Management and Strategic Studies, and she's participated on the elaboration of the National Plan of Artificial Intelligence, which was mentioned by Mr. Minister Sebrais earlier. And we also emphasize this interface to technology, with technology and information. Yeah. Applause, please. Our third panelist is Julia Santana Mello on the corner. She's a lawyer specialized in digital law and compliance with more than 10 years on experience of projects with social impact and public policies with focus on LGBTQI causes. She's co-coordinator at the Aqualturn Lab, and she's alternate counselor on the National Human Rights Council, working on human rights issues. Please, applause. And last but not the least, obviously, Marilia Sturm, who is closer to me here. She is manager of the public sector at Google Cloud in Brazil. She leads the relationship with federal entities has been doing it for more than 12 years. She's graduated in management, and she has an MBA in governmental policies, and she works with data structures in public services. Please applause. And now I would like to invite our first panelist, Representative Reginaldo Lopes, to speak. If you can speak over there or here at the tribune, as you like it, sir. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to participate, to take part in this moment. Caroline, Julia, Marilia, and Eric, I would like to tell that this debate is on the daily order because it has a lot to do with the future of our country, the country that we truly want, and it also has to do with the future of our democracy, because democracy has not an end in itself. It has also to do with the national project, what kind of sovereignty we are going to build for the future. So it's evident that this is the biggest challenge right now at the place I am representing in an indirect way the civil population on this debate of a regulation of AI, and this is a debate quite important, crucial, I would say. It's evident that this topic, beyond regulation, that it's quite essential. As I told you, democracy, sovereignty, it needs to be ruled, especially Julia will talk a lot about it, reaffirming the individual and collective rights. But it's also a topic that the Brazil as a state, the Brazilian parliament, all society needs to be committed with fostering policy, a quite objective one, a quite strategic program, because intelligence and inclusion, they need two basic things. First of all, talent, and talents need public policies, and they must be quite universal with the ability to uh, make more democratic the opportunities in such an unequal country. A country that was not able yet to protect the early childhood. We still weren't able to achieve the national education plan objectives. We need data. Data. Brazil has got data. Maybe in some areas, Brazil is one of the few countries with enough data to implement new technologies that will can set us in a new economy in more with more aggregate value, with a more powerful economy. I could mention, for example, the data concerning health. Brazil is very economically dependent, considering export and imports, and a deficit of $60 million, and we got the universal health system. Very few countries have a system like ours. So we have the data to feed this intelligence. Our health system is something extraordinary, and it needs a structure. So our path, and it's it's not something to say it's a long way. Actually, it's quite fast. We can't uh, postpone it for tomorrow. We gotta make a decision concerning state policy. When I mention talents, it's evident that part of the population uh, must uh, is, go to university to become programmers, developers, but we also got a great difficulty of the digital inclusion, the digital literacy. And it requires a lot of investment. It is obvious that I helped in 2011 about when people had to think about the restructuring high schools in Brazil. And when it comes to society, we people want to create specific subjects for it, for different educational steps, and this is not the way education must be done. It needs these topics needs to be need to be discussed transversally. It's not that's not the point about creating a new subject. But this is our difficulty. Actually, our difficulty is to make it become part of our educational system, of our national system. How the schools in the small town, in the districts I was born, how that school will have all these technologies because believe it or not, Brazil is the most connected state in Latin America. Not in the world, but anyway, uh, our sector, considering telecommunications and optic fibers, is quite victorious. The point is access, the quality, and the financial resources, because Brazil has another great problem. Unfortunately, the size of our inequality, it's a country where it's entrapped in a very low per capita income with lesser than India or China with a billion people population. It's a barrier that hinders all this universalization. We got connectivity, but families do not have enough income to access all this connectivity. After that, obviously, the use of this connectivity, how will we work with this connectivity from the point of view of a good preparation, and how will Brazil step uh, considering its industrial policy, because this is essential. There are two basics things in a project of nations. First of all, it needs to have a currency, a good monetary policy, central bank, and also a good industry, technology. And there is no nation without an industry. So maybe Brazil has a new opportunity now, this new revolution, it is a new industrial revolution that is extremely technologic and digital. However, it's not gonna appear, it's not gonna happen with 23 billion of investment. It's a policy that will assure all an adequate infrastructure. I think the idea of Minister that was quite relevant of anticipating the effects of the tax reform, from the point of view of disonerating all the infrastructure and uh, free taxing all investments, allowing a big program where Brazil can uh, take this critical infrastructure, and it's fundamental for Brazil because it will build its this infrastructure, and obviously it will require a lot of investment. And Brazil has got the strength because it's got sustainable and the clean energy and the cleanest energy matrix from water, from the sun. It's a country that is an example and has a good productive capacity. It can build data centers and it must build its own sovereignty, its own artificial intelligence. So these are the challenges from this regulation. There are many regulation models in the world. There we are in the middle of a debate. I guess the uh, representative Aguinaldo Ribeiro will listen to all the society. He will finish the public audiences about it to discuss it, considering the 8 principles of our regulation and the debates.
I do believe that it's possible to deliver in the final of and the ending of November, December, a report so the society can still debate this theme. Probably it will be modified, the project that came from the Senate in 2023, and then will come back to the Senate. It's good when the country, some subjects, it's important to have this process of maturing of the thematics, especially if the topic has such an importance. That at the same time you have to regulate, but the regulations cannot create barriers for innovation. So this primary research until this becomes a product. So it's evident that we need to reaffirm our principles of the federal constitution and of a society that has this pact that faces all of our issues that can regulate so we can have a more balanced and just and democratic society that has opportunities as well. So this is a moment that we're working in the Brazilian parliament that I do believe we can present and follow up our agenda. Our president regulator is out of the country in this international convention, and also hearing a little bit of the big ones for the ones that have a lot of experience and that work in the sector that have been participating in some seminars. That was a seminar that was very interesting in the National Confederation of Industry with some sectors, economical sectors, and has been that had this application of those three modalities of the AI being the traditional and the ones with a lot of products that we export and the generative itself and this economic sector that had a lot of gain on productivity and efficiency. I think it's a process of 5 years that they've been working on for this implementation, and they said that they had this gain of 15%. It's a lot. Process of competitiveness that this sector doesn't have 15%. This three intelligence. I think it's even more important. This natural intelligence of the human being. We talk about artificial intelligence, but it has this preliminary that is the human being having the. It doesn't substitute the human intelligence, so it's a gain. So it's a process that's irreversible. I even joked in that debate. I still think that the new tributary system in Brazil, I've been looking at the regulations, and it doesn't have like this tax on this cascade effect only on the production, and this gives 8 to 50% of productivity and competitiveness, and we can face the tariffs from Trump, for instance, 15% of 30% for Brazil there in this math, to try and face this craziness of the end of the multilateral relations and so absurd this economical sanctions of the Brazilian economy. So this is it. It's also intrinsically connected to the countries and economical policies for the future. Brazil, unfortunately, is still very rich compared to climate, soil. Brazil is probably third or fourth richest economy, but it doesn't translate in richness and distribution for the people because it's a very unequal country. But it's a new opportunity for Brazil to overcome this economy that in the last 40 years we've lost the participation of the worldwide GDP when this aggregated value and Brazil has become a primary exportation, not nothing against the primary sector, but it can aggregate value and produce richness, and then you distribute in the per capita revenue, and you put money into the Brazilian citizens, and this will consider in the Brazil that does have a revenue and face of democracy. So some observations that we've been treating in this topic is a transversal topic in my opinion, and it goes through the all areas of public policies and will define the future in the next 100 years. So we all have together to democratize this debate and do the best regulation possible. You can hear me, right? Very good, Daniela's speech. And I'm thinking about so many questions. I think I have a week worth of questions to talk about this team. But the questions for everyone there, you have your forms, who is on YouTube also online. You can send us your questions, and we'll do within our means try and to mask some of them to try and make some of them to try and answer them. I will give the floor to Karenini Pereira to do her presentation. Hello. Oh, it's working. So, firstly, I'd like to thank the invitation to be here today in the Federal Court of Accounts. And there's also Pena who couldn't be here. CGE, no, but not a lot of people know. It's a social organization linked to the CTE, and it's been created more than 20 years to have the public policy studies, evaluation of public policies and indicators and all of that. So particularly, CGE has been working and elaborating some studies, and it's been conferred to us the possibility to work with MCTE and the elaboration of the Brazilian plan of AI. So it started from a demand of President Lula with the Council of Sciences and Technology and Innovation. And the plan was done practically in 3 or 4 months because it was a very urgent demand. A lot of other countries been advancing this thematics, advancing their plans. A lot of things have happened. And that was the demand from the presidents. We need to guarantee our digital sovereignty. And we remember that in the pandemic, we're very vulnerable with the conductors. So that was this worry when it comes to guaranteeing sovereignty and institute the industry of AI and how we're going to do capacity building in our country. So I'm here in the Federal Court of Accounts and been collaborating in this plan and also monitoring the plan with the other institutions. And it's important to say it's only MGNCT. It was a plan doing a lot of workshops, specialists, and IT people and civil society. It's important to say that to come to a plan that the ministry has talked at the other time, just talked about the numbers, and it's a lot of that is to structure a chain in Brazil and have the solutions for industry and data centers and have a pile of AI in Brazil. It demands a lot of resources. There we have some actions for capacity building, a lot more for capacity building and AI and graduation, postgraduate and doctorate, and some actions to literacy and AI and all of that. So obviously it's important to say that the plan is a live plan. The Ministry of CTA, she always says that in her presentations, and this will prove to be from CGT of PBA that has been launched, I think, 2-3 months later. They're in the third meeting, so those actions are reviewed, and the institutions has brought new actions. MAC has brought new actions that they've done a lot of things in that sense, and also pondering to new criticisms. I'd like to bring a little bit how the plan has thought through the digital inclusion. I think this is very interesting because the definition and understanding of artificial intelligence, we talk about the access to ticks and guaranteeing access of quality access, and with the time we see that the significant connectivity is a important concept, and we can bring other elements, the speediness and things that are more available. And the AI, you have a new layer, more than a layer, sometimes a lot of layers, and you have to bring literacy in AI. They need to understand what they're using. It's way harder. You have to educate people to program and try to understand all of that. And there is a layer that I think actually it really touches me. And when it comes to algorithm transparency, this is not clear. And I think there's two fronts: the regulation to ask for the transparency in companies, and to educate people so they understand the algorithm. That's really hard. Most people don't know when they interact in social media, they generate data, and then companies utilize that data to offer you credit, to punish you, and do distinctions and control of masses and all of that. And even the people that have this notion of social media collecting our data and streaming, collecting our data, is very shallow. Their understanding of that. What do they do with this data? I'm from economy. I'm not IT. I'm not technology. I don't know what they do with that later, honestly. And we have another component that it's generated is this issue. We have new socially excluded people. They are socially excluded, but they are manipulated by those opaque systems. And there were two researches pro- proving that they contest those companies of the application of Uber, like those apps, companies of transport. This very big company has been using those OPEC systems to manipulate the drivers and the passengers so they can, starting from AI, it's important to say those technological companies have been hiring a lot of psychologists because of the behavior of people so they can manipulate those drivers that are willing to receive less with the passengers that want to pay more. So we are in a hurry, so I'm going to pay a little more. And they can unite those two figures and have more profit on top of that. So it shows those transport companies has been very lucrative in function of those algorithms. So if you talk to a driver from this app, he doesn't have any notion that this is happening. So you say, oh, wow, how can I fight for this? Who is going to fight for this for me? So guaranteeing this transparency of the algorithms is a very serious problem. How can you guarantee that these workers, what happens and the data shows is that those workers, even making more trips, they're receiving less money. So you have this exclusion and making it worse the situation of some groups. So I'm not going to talk about only the negatives. We need to consider that AI brings a lot of benefits. The digital inclusion, the plan has this name, the AI for the well-being of all, and is in the means of the presidents that brings actions that will effectively improve people's lives. And we've done this. We have the actions that are structured, that give basis and the pillars for Brazil to develop and maybe being a regional leader or competitive, more competitive throughout the world, and the areas of health, education. So the institution has brought us things that can improve people's lives and increasing accessibility and public services and increase the capability of education. Anyways, we need to be careful with this exclusion and algorithms as well. So we have some experiences. I think this also has been discussed around the world and international experience of digital inclusion, India, European Union, so on, to amplify the access in rural places and policies and actives and directives to have focus on transparency and inclusion of AI in developing countries, and also the algorithm also has been done in the United States and audits, and Brazil with the regulation. Is important to say that the plan, it doesn't go deep in when it comes to regulation, and it'll left for the Congress to discuss. But the structural issue of AI. And only to emphasize, the plan has some fundamental pillars. I brought two, there are five, but I brought two that talk about this. Digital inclusion is centered on the human being, and when it comes to dignity and diversity, cultural diversity, and working the and preventing inequalities. And this one is about the transparency of AI, and traceable, and talking about the security, cybernetic security, and author rights. And well, I'm gonna bring some actions of the plan that look into the transparency on the algorithm. One is about the diffusion in AI, which is broad action when it has technological transparency and daily applications and risks of the citizen, including a Olympic for the Olympics for the Brazilian students. It's been realized this edition for this Olympics for the Brazilian students were in the second place. They had a second place on this Olympics, and formation of educators and having educating those professors that will teach AI for the students and talk about the risks as well. And the other one about the National Center of Algorithm Transparency, and that has this governance for AI, and to try and construct a center to develop research and studies when it comes to transparency, security, and trustworthiness of AI, and make the society a little bit more conscious of the data and how they're utilizing their data, so on. Just one more. And through two others, which is the guidelines of responsible AI that has been done by MGE, and they're responsible for education and with justice has been involved with this action. And another very interesting action of the Brazilian Observatory of AI of NICBR Sao Paulo that we are partners with. That is a very important space to try and bring tax information for the society to be more conscious of what AI is and how this can impact our lives, especially when it comes to quality information, and trying uh, to talk to our representatives and um, asking them for transparency with our data and how the companies has done this to not damage people's lives, because we have more inequalities every day, and this is a big problem and a very big risk, and something that we've been talking about when it comes to AI. Thank you. This is it. If you'd like, there is a QR code to access the plan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Caroline. Is a very relevant theme, really, that your work that been trying to leverage this dichotomy. We have we have this potential, and we have this regulation, and trying to do act with that. So I'm gonna pass the floor to Júlia Santana de Mello, who is going to bring this experience and knowledge and share it with us.
Thank you very much. I would like to greet everybody on this debating table. Everyone who's watching through other virtual platforms, I would like to thank. We are a collective of human rights, race, technology. We try to make documents and political interventions related exactly to it. Who is really included and who is excluded from it. As we are talking about digital inclusion, I'll start talking about something important. Who has access to technology? This is the first thing we need to question when we talk about inclusion. So we can take issues related to social and economicals. Who has access to water or to basic sanitation? So we evolve to uh, good nutrition, to education, to culture, to sports, leisure, and so we get into the digital issue. I guess we have evolved a lot. Uh, Recently, we also have the web digital project, came from a project 2628, bringing up the question of the right of children and teenagers on the internet. Now the slate will be enforced in a few months. We bring recent info up, and a national authority, now it's a national agency about it, and we have to celebrate all these issues. We have been advancing on issues about AI, but I still ask myself, still looking at people who are here and people who are at home, where are my partners here in Brazil? Which administrative region? Who are the people from the peripheric regions who are here? If we cut the peripheral areas, if you ask how many of these people declared as black people are here, if you take this percentage, it will be even smaller. In such a discussion of 2 days in an international scenery, we are discussing inclusion, and I really challenge those who are seeing online, and I would like you to identify yourselves because it is a quite important issue. Who has the access? Who has access to come here in person? The money for transportation to take public transportation to be here. When it comes to territories concerning artificial intelligence and digital inclusion, because I guess all these discussions, these law discussions in executive must be carried out, but it's also necessary to talk about interfederation dialogues. How can we get out of the federal sphere to states, to municipalities? How is it translated there? And the territories inside the territory. When you get into a city and go to suburb areas, go to rural areas, how access to digital inclusion happens to indigenous communities, to people from quilombos. From the beginning, they talked here about access to internet, and it has a lot to do with it. There is also has also been broad research on who accesses the internet, about the quality of the internet. Most people, considering social and economical reality, only have access to mobile technology. I'm not talking about Wi-Fi. I'm talking about mobile on a cell phone, limited. It's not an account that comes every month. So how can we talk about digital inclusion if the basic on access to internet is not covered? Infrastructure to have better internet. How can we talk about combat to misinformation if we don't have access to internet, if we don't understand how hardwares work, if we how can we include people in the labor market if people do not know how to use a computer or a notebook, if they only access a mobile internet? In the incidence of the black population, we also talk about the biases in the algorithm. So we got gender prejudice in the algorithm. A silver bullet that comes from technology that may solve our problems, that we have been evolving a lot as a society historically. There is always a silver bullet, there is always an innovation that everybody thinks will solve all problems. Then face recognition technology will solve all public security problems with face recognition, investing public money for face recognition technology. However, this face recognition technology has racist biases. There are several researches. Take my face off of your arrow, considering that, saying that these technologies do not recognize or confuse very easily black people's faces. And we also got this in gender issues. So it's a cascade. We try to solve the public security issue. We use technology of face recognition. We are working with artificial intelligence. At the same time, these people are put into prison, and black people are put into prison, and we are reproducing all racism that has already been going on, misogyny inside the LGBT community, with transgender men and women as well. So inside this reflection, I'd like to say that it is important to discuss this evolution, but before we discuss inclusion and access, we need to look at our circles. We need to look at the places where we access, where these discussings are, where the discussion is reaching, not necessarily on people who need to get into the discussion. So it is important to bring the question, the matter of the territory, digital inclusion, concerning artificial intelligence. We also think, oh, this is a challenge for us concerning law and technique in our language as well. Uh, Quite often we go get trapped in technical language, and it's quite important. And people are able as well when we talk this way. However, the matter of language is also, it also has to do with access. It also has to do with inclusion. It's not worth it to talk about it with the Uber driver and ask, "What do you think about artificial intelligence?" to the old lady over there at the newsstand, people who are selling candy, and they talk about it. They talk about these issues. Then I say, well, according to Article 19 from Internet Civil Landmark, it's all interesting and important. But these people do not necessarily in a hurry selling things and getting what how much they will need to get back home. How much impact does it have in their lives? uh, when will we step back a little bit? And this is why I talk about territory and language. When will we low down and talk more easily to these people? And that's what I'm talking to do now. I want to talk to you. I'm not here necessarily tearing qualifications, but we are talking about artificial intelligence, racism, algorithm biases, and how we evolve about it. We must learn how to talk about other people from beyond our own circles. We live inside a bubble. Most of us here know, most people here know each other. So how will we explode this bubble and give critical thinking to people who need it? It's not worth in making a lot of technical notes, and in this moment we don't get the population to understand what we are discussing. We are in Brasilia, we are in the center of power, we are in the capital, and we still face a lot of difficulty to articulate these topics, especially when we are talking about racial issues and LGBT communities. Why would people deviate from their daily routine if they do not understand they're trying to fight for them? My community does not understand. All I do is, guys, this will give us much more problem than we got today. How will we manage it? They do not understand that, or they understand but do not necessarily they deepen into it. So we need to start creating this force of mobilization. And when we think about these political incidents, we also must think about how this mobilization should be done. There are many ways to make it. There are many ways to reach people. So let's talk about digital inclusion and artificial inclusion in education for teachers. Let's talk about ethics in AI. It's the matter of students who do not use ethically ChatGPT, or is it about the teacher who doesn't know how it works? Should we include this in the curriculum so he can pass it to students? Let's talk about culture. Let's talk about cultural property. Uh, this makes it more interesting. This makes the issues more interesting. People who are in peripheric regions trying to get their own territory also need to understand how it communicates with their daily lives. So why don't we think about it? Let's talk about black beauty. So let's talk about it. How should we talk about it in artificial intelligence? Let's talk about climate changes, but let's also talk about data centers, how it communicates. Let's criticize our own contradictions, because that's it. We are sovereign Brazil, fine. digital sovereignty. But how can we make it match with the issue of data centers? And there are people from Sarah, the state of Sarah, questioning this quite recently. This is a proof that people are attentive, they are interested in it, and there is a rupture about to come. Inclu- by the way, statements we got, the flux of internet to make this information flow and make these alterations. So inside this, I put on challenges here actually. I don't have necessarily pessimistic points of view, but we need to think not only about using ChatGPT to think for us, but having critical thinking, thinking about who has the access, how they have access, how can they access it better, are we communicated assertively, are we reaching those who need to be reached. This is the challenge to our friends here together with us, everybody at home. Which other ways can we think about it? A project, how can we think in an intersectoral, multisectoral project? The the public auctions, the public about auctions about education in other areas. How will we think it in a multisectoral, intersectoral, and intersectional way? Because it's end up hitting us, the minorities, not exactly the majority, the excluded majority. The majority is excluded, and this is serious. This is quite serious. The majority is excluded. The majority does not have access, and we'll. unt- how long will we keep reproducing that? And our colleagues here, no matter if they are in IT, law, legislation, executive, everybody must think better about it too. And self criticizing us and make the test looking at each other. Thank you very much. Quite relevant reflections you brought here. There is not only law, even law has a barrier for people to understand. When you agree with someone, you say, okay, I follow the person who's in charge of it. We have the right, we have AI, we have digital inclusion, and it's not enough only agreeing. How can we communicate? How can we say that this is relevant, this is important, this is a hard task? I guess communication is the hardest task we have in life. It's quite difficult. Thank you very much. I would like to pass the floor to Marilia Sturm, the representative of Google, to make her presentation. Well, good morning, guys. I thanks once again the space and the invitation. It's quite rich. How rich is the scope of these discussions of abilities that are human? I guess I would like to bring, but beforehand, it's always a pleasure to talk about digital inclusion because it's in Google's foundation. Google's mission is to bring and become worldwide information accessible and useful for everybody. So if we observe before generative AI, the biggest revolution we got through internet came from a search bar where you promote a transformation in access to data, in access to info. So you modify all interaction with a layer, with a amount of data from a single search bar. So inside the mission of making worldwide information universally accessible and useful, we really need to keep promises so it won't become a privilege, and instead we have everybody included. And in order to assure that this access is really for everybody, we need to bring some dimensions that have already been discussed here, but I reinforce the deep access of connectivity or infrastructure must not it's not enough that it becomes something basic. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's clearer, but the access to internet, to data, to the amount of data, the way you interact with a screen, it also lets you marginalize or not, depending on how much information you got. It's not only about assuring the access to the Brazilian citizen, but also manage to include them into their participation in a matter of creating, really creating contents inside an digital economy. Who's able to make it? When we are talking obviously about infrastructure and connectivity, but access, actually it goes through the issue of connectivity of broadband, as some people brought some data here a few minutes ago. We cannot marginalize the matter of access to information, how information is given, how it's said. So it brings us to the second challenge that has been well positioned by Representative Reginaldo, the access without ability, the literacy, the digital literacy itself. So the invitation to this access without ability is totally frustrated. We truly need to give capacity to Brazilians, and it's the tip of an iceberg of all technology that goes through digital services. When we talk about handing citizenship through technology, we got cases of remote locations, rural areas, where technologies allows us to have a zip code. So we have the issue that something Google names as plus codes. So you can deliver things in a slum communities that do not have a zip code, using geological referencing, uh, together with the institutions that really uh, give access to the service. Access to this digitalization has a purpose of serving. And which are the services which are marginalized, no matter how technological they are, because they cannot reach the citizen? Emergency services. How can't we find the citizen, as we got a technology to find this citizen in real time, so we can really bring it, and it's purely human. Where are the deficiencies today that we could habilitate more services in favor of technology, no matter if it's AI or not? When we talk about urban mobility, when we talk about obviously the matter of transportation apps, we can also bring ways how it helps people on roads today inside the cities. But not only that, access to rural areas that people didn't know where they were before.
That were areas that were not mapped, and today we can look at have the locality of the residences in these big areas with those routes dimensioned by the technology. So when we talk about literacy access, I always bring this issue of service that today is in technology, but we public service human beings, we need to understand how we can serve more, and how the technology is going to make so feasible the and bring this new knowledge. It's interesting that from the Brazilians, Google has done this research of this year of this report of economical impact to that connect with AI, we have 66% learning new abilities throughout AI, bringing new knowledge. So it's not only productivity. Of course, we have the figures. 47% talk about results in the daily lives, and 49 in the work life. So when it comes to acquisition for new knowledges and skills, we propose also a service that is different for that citizen, and how to make technology to put that human being in a new step. So is very crucial. And the third topic is about the accessibility. So the platforms, the public services, they need to be accessible to all. Uh, People with impairments, with the lack of digital abilities, we need to have this experience. Uh, and this comes from development of products, but not only for that, and the development of services, how the interaction of the citizen is there, and is it for all of us. And we need to have this as a starting point, and not only as a extra resource. It's not an extra resource. So we talk about translation, something very simple, but it breaks linguistic barriers, and makes it accessible for other people. And without the idiom, you can have this translation technology and the interaction by voice. That is something that is seeked a lot for projects of public services, because today sometimes a professional are not going to have this condition and functional illiteracy, how they can have access in a speedy way also, or the ones that can so how we can have this access of public services in a equal way for everyone. So this proves is not only tools, but our capacity to utilize them with the development of society. And obviously, when we talk about artificial intelligence, I always talk about the paradox of accessibility and technology. In the artificial intelligence, it becomes shallow because it's a technology, very complex technology of algorithms, where obviously we have big models being constructed throughout them, but in an access that is huge. So to the contrary of other technologies that are very complex and few people are able to access AI, they come provoking this paradox of accessibility and putting a technology that is complex that is more accessible to all. So the capacity that we have is to instruct people, capacity building to people so they can have a good usage of the AI, because today we have AI that translates a menu or an etc. It describes an image for a blind person. It can personalize a route of learning and identify how we can, in some public educations, the functional illiteracy, and give that to teachers that have 50, 60 uh, students, and accelerate the capacity building and give support to the students to have uh, a better work with the orientation with the teachers. So we give speediness to services where before we had problems with the humans, but the habilitation of that will only give through humans proposing to serve better and utilize the technology in that way. So I do believe that the digital inclusion asks for the government, the public sector, the private sector, and the civil society, so we can have biases that are of human behavior will not repeat themselves with the usage of AI. So we can, in fact, identify behaviors that will generate this whole cultural issue, so we can combat them and not utilize the technology to amplify them or being more discriminatory. So we can, in this more advanced technology, to serve in this bridge of development. I think it's that brings and treats the theme of digital inclusion and obviously of social inclusion where we put ourselves. So the big risk is to make it automatize this discrimination, make automatizing this discriminatory way of thinking in critical areas, credits companies. So this already happens with all this data, and intelligence and technology will simply proliferate this behavior that were done before in the operational way for us humans. So we need to have this care is where we project this public service to be done in a more quick way with this interaction of the citizen. So what I put there to finalize my speech is that we need to have this responsibility in the usage of technology, and this will only be able to be done throughout our own intelligence without being the artificial intelligence. Thank you. Very good presentation. The explanation of what we're bringing of novelties. And something that I've always been thinking about, the AI will increase our capacities. It amplifies to amplify what is bad. It amplifies also something that we don't want to see. In simple cases, even the draw someone standing. Most of the time, they will draw someone who's white. So you can see that a lot of people will always make fun of that. So we're always joking about that. This is real. So you put a person who's robbing, it will have like this white mask, but a black person behind it. So we've been always talking in presentations, and I mentioned AI is not racist. AI is not a person, but it's going to learn with the disposable data that we have and what we put there. So Microsoft had this bot that was talk about Twitter, and he was racist, and people would ask them to ask for stuff that it wasn't good. So very good presentation. I'm going to start with a question for you, and taking advantage that you have the microphone. A question that we had from Guilherme Max through YouTube, and he wanted to know what is the role of Google slash Microsoft, and obviously let you talk about Google and other companies. So please Google on the area for the social inclusion in AI. We talked about slums, and I'd like to extend his question focusing on what I've already thought about. What is Google? What can Google do to have more inclusion when the municipalities? We know that Brazil is such a huge country, and I've talked about people from municipalities, which is the accessor of the mayor and the access of accountability accounting. And what is your vision, and how can you amplify the offer of services? What are the obstacles in this line that you see? I'd like to hear a little bit about that. The sector of technology in its all has this big responsibility in trying to interact. But as I said, it's not a responsibility only for the private sector. We need to have this interaction with the government, municipalities, to try and understand how we can put and create this access of the citizenship in an easier way. We have obviously some cases of urban responsibility or rural paths where we in fact can see the impact of technology being in favor of public policy. So this interaction of the creation of zip codes and the observation of, for instance, the on the police, we have this perception where the delegate doesn't have a vision of all the states that are there present, and he can observe that sometimes the names are going to be different, and there is this pattern of behavior in its locality. It's put in the same territory, and people coming throughout other people, and this kind of intelligence throughout the aggregation of data. Obviously, the human being can analyze this, but you doing graphs and facilitate the access to that information is a means in which we can include people and also the public decisiveness to try and include socially someone. So when we talk about access, especially on the emergency services, is something that are said a lot in the police and the municipalities. You cannot have we need a reference for the address and a photo. How can I analyze that photo? Sometimes a human being to analyze, the machine can do that very quickly and in a speedy way, and of accident in a car accident, and the capability to take a photo and have some kind of answer of monitored by the team of the firefighters. It's not an automatic response. It's not for you to put in Gemini and ask them, but it's the public service being done starting from there. So bringing information that are in fact of letters and but not only that, to try and make it feasible the access of whoever has a decision and can actually uh, do the help in a more effective way. And the question now is for Caroline, is from Flávia Guimarães, that is going to mediate the panel, the next panels, and she's here. She'd like to know about the PL 2338 of 2023, if it's aligned with the goals of transparency of PBA. So it's a delicate question because, in fact, it was difficult to monitor. We had this workshop to do the PBA with this regulation, and we brought people that discussed this theme and try to align with the. It was something PL is not finished yet, so to them the discussions try to align of what was with PL. So I'm going to take the opportunity, since you have the microphone. The observatory of CGA, it does utilizes indicators of some stuff that is leveraged by the AI. We know that measuring this type of thing with the generative AI, they have this difficulty, which is qualitative sometimes or has declarations. I'd like to know from you if you've already have executing this area. CG has the observatory of digital technologies. Our point of view is for technologies, robotics, cloud computation, big data, etc. And we also have, because we started as the digital transformation, so we have this look for digital inclusion. So we have secondary data of Nikki taking entrepreneurship and education. So in this week, we have the education of 2024, bringing data from AI and usage of AI in education. So this is what we have on OTD is comes from Dica Education. We don't have primary data from CGE. We have scientific publications with those technologies analyzing how the formation in the country and who's been producing thesis and how is their capacity building in that sense. So Nikki Behe is helping us a lot in this. So there's a lot of questions here for the representative with your expectation on the regulation legislation. So they asked TCU, and I'm going to give it to the legislative, which is the Congress, and the question of Andrea Britos from YouTube, how TCU is thinking about the digital inclusion for the public 60 plus. So in the Congress also, and there's some questions in this line, 60 plus on this one. The other one talks about the other side of the coin, the education of children and young people, and what is the role of AI in the education of this group. So I'd like to hear from you, please. I talked previously, we have this curriculum autonomy on the networks at the same time. Contrary to health, we don't have consolidated in this national system. The mayor came into the schools and doesn't come to the states. And the worst thing is that the student will go to the federal school and nobody from state or municipalities goes in. So I think this is outrageous. And the other side, the course of nursing, so it was only a street, literally speaking, and we had a lab with dolls that were $15 million, and I came to the other side of the street and he said, can you do this lab and can you just go across the street? This is the problem of the country. We are an expensive country before we are rich, so we have this federative system that is collaborative in network. This is another dilemma. AI brings that. From one side, if we don't have public policies of inclusion and we have more exclusion, but the other side allows more access to public policies with more accessible prices, doing more with the same resources and with more deficiency. So is it possible to do that in health with a lot of competency? Maybe Brazil can have this traceability of the future disease of my grandson. So we have this antibiotics that is more fast and that is faster and this rhythm of the human being, but it also allows access to telemedicine. And we need to combine the flexible education. I think this fundamental, and not everything needs to be from far away, but not everything needs to be in person. And we need to combine and put all the children and the elderly on this transversal system. It's not to create, but sometimes we have uh, debts, and I'm going to create the transversal education. That's not what I'm talking about. It's very defined, those areas, the 4 areas of knowledge, and we need to do that and put that in the curriculum. People need to open more for the information, review the curriculum, and not be passionate about the curriculum, but to the learning. And this is for everyone. It starts on early childhood. We need to have the capability for those rooms and inclusion. And it's very enchanting because children are already connected. They're born connected. So we need to limit this utilization. So this is a big learning curve, and we cannot only think that doing this exclusion and excluding people from technology is the responsible use of all that technology. And the policies since the first day of the children and early childhood. So this is it. As Julia has said, we cannot repeat the excluded, who doesn't have dignified households. We know about this. The black woman, the black man, the young. So this is the dialogue from that policies for everybody, public policies that is more inclusive for all. So this is evident for the seniors. This is fundamental because less than a decade is already part of. I used to say that representatives work on their own. I were 28 when I was elected, and now I want to have the national plan of planning of the elderly for the national plan. So eventually, what am I going to do after 60? So this is the challenge for us to include. Brazil needs to respect the elderly. Brazil has the risk of constructing, as it was in the past, the early childhood, the positive children, and have the deposit of elderly. This is a shame. So we need to do this immediately, so they don't have anything. The streets for cars or mobility centers and stabilization and integration and health. Those are challenges going forward. So we're going to have in the next 10 years the biggest population of elderly. And that what we say about Europe, they took 100 years to have older people, and now in 10 years is something that is happening to us. So everything's connected. I hope that the AI make us live 150 years as well. and eradicate diseases so we have this long life. I don't want this for the new generations. I wanna take some of that too. And I'm gonna say sorry. I had a meeting that was 11. I came here and then I had another meeting. So I like to apologize. And then I passed it to 12 and then 12:30 and I'm already late. So I'm just gonna see Julie and then I'm gonna have to leave. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm gonna pass the floor. The next question, it comes for this theme. I'm gonna put it to Julia, which is the minorities, about minorities. In which way is it done for Ludmila Coelho and researcher of FFV? In which way the AI can be the creation of more accessible solutions for people with impairments, people, and I always send that for other categories of people that historically have differences on how to be seen and treated. How can AI help in this sense, um, bringing your background in law? I don't think there's a an answer, only one answer. What I think about a collective construction, how can we include
How people, black people, in the debate of artificial intelligence, and how AI can take this into consideration, people who are over 60 years old. It's quite important to talk about the elderly in Brazil, and connectivity and connections and inclusions also. Considering academic question, we can create groups. Why don't we create group not only for debating, but also a group at the university, and then we can uh, find a private industry that considers inclusion together with the academy, together with private institutions. In public power, it can be done also, and it should be done as well. We have a representative from Google, so let's make a group inside your university, Ludmila. Let's use your research issue uh, as a something. So the ones who are in front of it, people with disabilities, and taking this role of the big techs, not to also to demonize it. It's important to say that there is this issue, but also to provoke them. Big techs, do you want to do more for the community? Do you want to include as well? Do you also want to discuss about it? Let's make a group. Let's listen to people who need to be listened to, considering law, the legislations and the law projects that have been into discussion. We are talking about race, but are we also talking about people with disabilities, about the elderly, uh, uh, African origin religions? Because we also have a lot of issues on internet, regulation of platforms, AI, uh, concerning questions and religious intolerance against African origin religions. So how could we really create these groups and stimulate the population and the citizen to do that? But at the same time, it's no use to use the groups, Ludmila, another person makes a group around sports to talk about it, and it's not worth it if we do not have a clear way on how we get to people who are developing those technologies and all the politics, the politicians. We need to make it clear how it works, and also considering communication as well, concerning communication as well. I am here today with all my partners, other colleagues from the same profession, but 10 years ago, if I were Ludmila, I would say, okay, so how will I get them to get into a project on AI to help people with the disabilities, the elderly, and black people? We must start to think about it as well. How can we make this bridge? How can we communicate it? How can people How could people understand the importance of laws and legislation and put this into a law project? Considering all the technical issues to design a law project, we have specific legislation and techniques for it. But how can stimulate people to become part of this transformation, of this change? We got really far away from it. We really want it. People want to evolve. People want to get closer, but they are excluded for a matter that was caused by our own selves. And who does it serve to? Who is it useful for? This is a breakthrough question. So answers inside this that Ludmila has talked about. What can we make? Make a group, make a collective, or make a regularizing an OSIP. We also got it. But why doesn't it get it? Why can't we reach it? And how can we improve it? It's a challenge for all of us here. So after 10 years, Ludmila can say, okay, 10 years ago, I made that question on how AI could help people with disabilities, and I see an evolution in it. I see that it can improve anyway. So we can make our part, and we need to solidify it. We need to respect ancestrality. We are here due to them. And what are we leaving as a legacy for the others who are about to come? We cannot only repeat speeches. What can we really do for it more than simply using words for the next generations and for all people to come and all technological evolution? Today is AI, generative AI, and what about tomorrow? Thank you, guys. I'll make two questions in one now to Caroline. Marcelo from the Welfare Brazil Institute on YouTube, and Guilherme Marques from YouTube, and they are about digital sovereignty. And the first question is how to implement a public policy with all budget, stimulating innovation in a decentralized way, and how to protect sovereignty without limiting innovation. Well, the first question, we have to talk about MGI in the role of data structure, interoperability of data. As Representative Reginaldo said, we have a rich basis on data about health, budget, education, etc. So we need to highlight, to acknowledge this work. Still with limited resources, we must have a cloud structure and we need much more resources for it. But we've been doing fine in a sense. And also about sovereignty, how to protect digital sovereignty without limiting innovation. It's hard, it's tough, because there is a lot of competition with big techs because they want our data. It's quite complex because, anyway, we need to get from the principle that we assure that we developed our AI chain. We thought a lot of it when we made IA plan, but people will question a lot of resources in a situation of adjustment. But if we don't do it, we'll have to buy it. It is there, it will be adapted. There is no way out, it will be adopted. So we educate people to assure our sovereignty, yeah, in order to compete in equality with others, or we will be always hostage to other countries and other companies. It's a tough question, but at least in paper we got it really clear. And the decentralization of institutes and etc. The the plan has it clear, leveraging centers of high computing in all five regions of the country, including the northern region, CPAs in all regions of the country, and we want to decentralize from the biggest center. It's to focus on São Paulo, Minas Gerais, and Rio de Janeiro, and it's been changing a lot. We've got a lot of interesting results on researches coming from other regions of the country, and it's being noticed already. That's it. Guys, the last question time is up, but the last one is for Marilia. I would like to know from you what would hinder or what would facilitate the availability of services concerning you on Google, for instance. We got an example. Obviously, we got strategic regions, but in the US, we got a lot of regions where you have this service. Here, you got São Paulo and you got Rio, isn't it? So, what is stopping us to make it more expensive here from the rest of the world? Because we really need a budget to make it happen, as the representative said. This is competitivity and it's also more access to a very unequal country. So, from you, from Google's point of view, what can be done for us to, leverage this level of services and make it better for users? Actually, investment in Latin America we have already been doing. So we've got data centers recently, including other countries. However, we actually we need to have an economic environment of development. Obviously, we got the question of consumption of data and services by Brazilian citizens, and there is a case of business to be put on. It's not only about environment or an environment of exclusion to investment in Brazil from Google. There are strategic questions involved, obviously. Guys, we are going to finish this panel here. I would like to thank all the panelists who brought their visions in several dimensions for these problems, which are complex. We don't end up here. We would have a week to discuss this topic because it's really up to date and really fast. Maybe with AI it will change within a month, and the speed of laws is not as fast as the AI. And nowhere in the world, but we got an expectation for a fast solution because there is a historical disadvantage we need to recover from. And I would like to thank everybody who are here, and we'll end up here and we'll get back in at 2 p.m. after lunch. Thank you, everybody.
We thank the presence of all the participants in the first panel, mediated by Eric Hans. We remember that the interested ones in getting the certificate of participation need to access the QR code on the auditorium. And now we're going to have the interval for lunch, and we'll come back at 2 o'clock with the audit of TCU with the digital inclusion, and the second panel with governance and national strategies of digital inclusion. See you soon.